Stop scrolling if you think world history is all about grand empires, celebrated heroes, and tremendous battles. Because I'm about to tell you a story so absurd you'll have to question if it actually happened. This is the tale of how a war erupted because of an ear. Yes, an ear. Intrigued? Let's dive right into the astonishing saga of the War of Jenkins Ear. Our story begins in the early 18th century. The year is 1731. Britain and Spain have a long-standing rivalry over trade dominance, particularly in the Americas. Tensions are high, both sides eyeing the treasures from the New World, and their naval confrontations are becoming increasingly heated. Now enter the protagonist of our tale, a British sea captain named Robert Jenkins. He was just your regular trader, sailing back and forth across the waters of the Caribbean, conducting his business. But in April of 1731, Jenkins's fate took an extraordinary turn. His ship, the Rebecca, was near the coast of Florida, Spanish waters. It was stopped and boarded by a Spanish Coast Guard vessel. The officer in charge accused Jenkins of smuggling goods, a charge that carried heavy penalties in this territory. Allegedly, the Spanish confiscated the cargo on board. But here's where things took a dark turn. A scuffle broke out between Captain Jenkins and the Spanish crew. What happened next is as gruesome as it is important for our story. In the midst of this encounter, the Spanish officer reportedly severed one of Jenkins's ears. And then, with theatrical flair, he handed the bloody ear back to Jenkins, allegedly saying, "Take this to your king and tell him that I will do the same to him." Bloody, earless, and outraged, Jenkins returned to Britain. The incident lingered as little more than anecdotal rage for several years. But then, in the early 1730s, Britain and Spain found themselves renegotiating trade agreements. Political hawks in Britain, always eager to gain leverage over Spain, latched on to Jenkins's story. By 1738, 7 years after the ear-slashing incident, Jenkins was brought before Parliament. And what did he do, you ask? He presented his severed ear as evidence. Imagine it, a packed legislative hall, politicians on edge, and there stands Jenkins, holding a shriveled 7-year-old ear, claiming he was a victim of Spanish aggression. The room was shocked. Emotional speeches were made. Outrage swept through Parliament. Jenkins quickly became a figurehead, a symbol of British dignity threatened by foreign forces. And guess what? This absurd little moment in history sparked a massive war. On October 23, 1739, Britain formally declared war on Spain, citing trade conflicts and territorial disputes. Officially, the war was about economics and sovereignty. Unofficially, it was all about that ear. Thus began the War of Jenkins Ear, a conflict fought all across the Caribbean and parts of Florida. Naval blockades were implemented. Skirmishes broke out on land. One of the most significant engagements was the British attack on the Spanish colony of Cartagena de Indias, which is in modern-day Colombia. The British, under Admiral Edward Vernon, launched a major offensive in 1741. They marshaled dozens of ships and thousands of troops. But here's where history takes yet another unexpected turn. The Spanish defenses, under the leadership of Blas de Lezo, a one-eyed, one-legged, one-armed naval genius, held their ground. Despite being vastly outnumbered, the Spanish forces managed to deal the British Navy a humiliating defeat. The Cartagena campaign remains one of the most ambitious military operations of that era, despite its failure. It also marked the decline of British supremacy for the moment. And what about poor Robert Jenkins, the man whose severed ear was supposedly the ignition point of this entire clash? Ironically, he faded back into obscurity. The war quickly moved beyond his personal grievance, mushrooming into a multinational conflict fueled by colonial ambitions. After years of bloodshed, the War of Jenkins's Ear became subsumed into a larger conflict, the War of the Austrian Succession. In essence, history buried it under larger geopolitics. But this bizarre tale still stands as a testament to how utterly absurd the causes of war can be. Imagine a global conflict erupting today because of something as seemingly trivial as, well, an ear. It boggles the mind, doesn't it? Now think about this story in a larger context. The Spanish officer who made the rash decision to cut off Jenkins's ear didn't just mutilate one man. That singular act added fuel to an already precarious situation. And Britain's choice to escalate the event into a war showed how readily nations could manipulate a personal tragedy into a geopolitical pawn. Isn't that fascinating? And equally horrifying? Issues of power, politics, and human pride have repeated through history in the most unexpected ways. So the next time someone tells you history is boring, remind them human history is full of bizarre sagas, unexpected moments, and even wars fought over an ear.